Okay, so today we're going to discuss Scotland's recently announced squad for the World Cup qualifiers against Australia, Austria, Israel, and Faroe Islands. I'll just give a quick run through the squad for anybody who hasn't seen it yet. But the goalkeepers are Craig Gordon, David Marshall, John McLaughlin. The defenders are Andy Considine, Declan Gallagher, Grant Hanley, Jack Henry, Scott McKenna, Stephen O'Donnell, Liam Palmer, and the captain, Andy Robertson. And then you've got Greg Taylor and Tierney as the backup left backs. Then in midfield, there's Stuart Armstrong, Ryan Christie, John Fleck, Ryan Jack, John McGinn, Callum McGregor, Kenny McLean, and Scott McTominay. And then the strikers are Lyndon Dykes, Ryan Fraser, Ollie McBurney, and two debutants in Kevin Nisbet and Shay Adams. I think Shay Adams is probably someone that none of us had mentioned when we did our 2020 squad so far. So, Ryan, what's your initial reaction?
None of us had him included, but I mean, I think at that stage he'd been asked by Steve Clarke if he'd be interested, and he was saying, no, I want to focus on England. So, nothing too surprising. I kind of feel like, I don't know about you lads, but this squad is a combination of getting the squad nailed in for the Euros and obviously also testing out like a few other players that could potentially be included. I was pretty happy with the squad overall, nothing too surprising. Jack Henry was a bit random, and Greg Taylor I thought was incredibly random, and also the omission of Turnbull surprised me. But apart from that, I was pretty happy overall, and I'm really happy that we could get Shay Adams on board because he's probably comfortably our second best striker. So.
Did you see Steve Clarke's interview regarding David Turnbull? He basically came out and said that unfortunately David's trying to fight for a place in the strongest position or the strongest positions in the Scotland squad. So he says someday Turnbull will get put in there. But then a lot of people were asking about, you could argue probably have left out Kenny McLean and replaced him with David Turnbull, just for example.
I mean, I'm happy enough with McLean because of his penalty record, but the one that me just springs to my mind is John Fleck. Like, what has he done in a rather poor Sheffield United team to be ahead of David Turnbull?
Yeah, no, that's a good shout. But that he gave a reason. People did question his omission of David Turnbull. Nobody gave a question why he kept McBurney in, which amazes me.
Yeah, I was going to say that's my next question: is the glaring omission of, or the glaring inclusion of Ollie McBurney. But you and I'll be happy, Scott, at least Ollie Burke was left out. That's one of the two.
I don't think there's not much more to add as into omissions and stuff, as you said. It was a little bit of a surprise with somebody like Jack Henry getting called up, but at the same thing, I had heard he had been having a very good season in the Belgium league, so it wasn't too surprising after folk had said, actually, yeah, he's having a good season. You might as well try him out now before just getting him to the Euros. Let's see if he plays maybe just one of the 3 games, see how he gets on. If he's not to the level, then right, we've tried him at least.
Yeah, Steve Clarke said in his interview on BBC Scotland that he was impressed with how Henry had gone away to a different league and tested himself out and kind of rebuilt himself. So I think he's kind of just rewarding him for that almost. And I think he also, one of the guys on that radio show asked him if it then gave him flexibility with McTominay being pushed into midfield because Henry's a right centre back and Clarke said it gives him the option. So again, we were saying, I think last time we were saying that we were questioning who would play that right centre back role if McTominay wasn't in midfield or was in midfield. I think maybe Clarke's given us an answer.
Yeah, we've got, looking at the squad, we've got 5/6 that can play centre back. Mm-hmm. So straight away, that's me thinking, yeah, he's playing McTominay in midfield, because you don't have 5 or 6 centre backs in a squad. Even though we've got 3 games, you still don't add up to 6 centre backs in a squad for then McTominay to play centre back. I just don't think that's the case. I think he's looked at McTominay and how successful he's been this season for United, and just thought, Ken what, we might as well actually play him in his position, and he might actually be somebody that can keep the ball and keep us ticking over on the counter or whatever against teams. So
it's an interesting one because it's a balance in that. Because do you change the system and try McTominay in midfield and Hendry at the back in your first qualifier against Austria, who are going to be one of your key challengers for the World Cup group? Like, so I'm interested to see whether he actually does put McTominay in midfield and Hendry at the back and go for it, because it's a gamble. Do you tinker with your team now and pay the price long term in qualifying, or I don't know.
I think that's kind of the point I was going to make, Alice. And also on top of that, if you do that and obviously play Hendry, now I know these are like, we're not at the Euros yet, they're not as important, but they're still pretty important games. If you do play Henry and move McTominay forward, then who's missing out? Because again, no one in the midfield particularly deserves to be dropped.
I'm thinking he might try it against the Faroes, because I mean, that, with all due respect to the Faroe Islands, that match should be a gimme where we can try things out and still get a comfortable win. So, yeah, and I also was thinking, part of the reason why I think he's brought John Fleck in is that I don't think I'd be surprised if Ryan Jack played all 3 games, given Rangers running in Europe. I wouldn't be surprised if he's done a wee deal there with Steven Gerrard to say that Jack won't play all games. So maybe you're saying it's like, you probably want your foreign players against Austria and maybe Israel, but then maybe he then rests Jack and Jack and McGregor and some other players and pushes McTominay into midfield for the Faroes game to try out the system. I don't know.
Yeah, that could be an option. I was actually a little bit surprised to see Ryan Jack in the squad. Not for, like, I would have him in my squad anyway, but he's been injured recently, so I was surprised to see actually his name there. I thought he was going to end up missing out because I think he's not playing tonight as we're recording. They've got their second leg in the last 16 of the Europa League, and he's not in that squad. So I thought he was injured, to be fair.
Just going with the defenders, that screams to me that he's going to play 5 at the back with a wing back on each side.
That's the system we've been playing anyway.
Yeah, I thought he might have tried something different completely.
I think he's set on his back. It's 3 centre backs.
Yeah, so that would have 3 in the middle, 5-3-2, and then 2 strikers maybe.
Yeah, 5-3-2, 3-5-2, whatever you want to call it.
We usually play like a 5-something-1-1, whatever.
Like a 5-4-1-1, a 3-5-1-1, call it what you want.
I don't know there's much of a... I think he'll go 2 up top now he's got Adams in.
Again, it's something that he might want to try, is Adams beside Dykes. See how that goes. Because, Adams isn't small, but he's no, like, over 6 foot, I don't think. So he's kind of in between. So I don't see them a problem with them trying it, whether it's they maybe try... I actually would like to see them try it just anyway against Austria. Che Adams, as you say, is in form, so why not just fling him in and see how he gets on? I know, like, everyone will be saying, but he's no played with a lot of these players before, but at the same time, neither's Kevin Nisbet or neither's Jack Hendry. So there'll be somebody gets flung into that Austria game. One of them 3 will get flung into it, if not more. But I do think they've been called up for a reason, and it is to try out and see if they'll work in any of our systems.
I think he might try and play into Shea's favour in the sense that he plays 2 up front. He plays in a 2 up front with Southampton, usually alongside Ings. So
yeah,
I think he might try and accustom that to Shea. Particularly when you bring something new. I think you try to revolve around him. To start with. So yeah, I could see 2 going up front. I
mean, QPR signed Charlie Austin in January, and it's kind of no limited Dykes' playing time, but he's not been starting every game. But when he has played, they've actually tended to play the 2 of them together up top. So again, there's Dykes now starting to play not as the lone striker and actually in a partnership. So again, that might actually help us out that he's now playing in a partnership.
Can't play 2 up top for Kilmarnock.
No, I think he only played 1.
I think he just played Boyd or in his last season, or Yeah, what did
Brophy.
they have up front?
Yeah,
Aye, Brophy, yeah.
yeah, I think it was just a one there. I was just going to bring up a point I'd read on a forum that a lot of guys are talking about McTominay becoming captain for Scotland over Robertson. Just given Liverpool's recent form and should, for whatever reason, Robertson get injured, etc. A lot of people are talking about McTominay as a suitable captain.
And
So,
I don't see any I don't see any reasoning for that. And if for whatever reason Robertson wasn't to be captain, I think McGinn would be captain, given that he was captain in the only game that Robertson's missed recently.
yeah, I thought the same. I didn't see, but
It seems to be if Robertson's no playing, it seems to be McGregor or McGinn takes the armband.
He has captained United before, isn't he? I'm sure he was given the armband at one point. Am I making that up? Probably.
Ryan, as the United fan,
As there isn't a United fan, yeah, I know.
I seem to recall McTominay getting the armband in one game.
Quite likely if Maguire wasn't playing Andy in a cup game or that,
Yeah.
I think he's a leader. Like, I've got no doubt he probably is a leader in the dressing room and stuff. But 3 months out from your first major, 3-4 months out from your first major tournament in 23 years, and you're talking about taking the captaincy off the only Scot to have won the Champions League since Paul Lambert. I'd be questioning Steve Clarke's sanity if he stripped Robertson.
No, it was just a point made in a forum. And then there was another talking about, so I recently seen on, I think it was Prime Video or something, they were talking about the fact that Kieran Tierney is probably the best left back in the league at the moment, Premier League rather. So going off of that, again, people were talking about playing Tierney in his preferred position at left back and then shoving Andy on the right, given that this, again, just given the current form. So again, would you be opposed to that, or do you think he'll stick with?
I just don't see, as Alistair says, we're at the Euros now. So what is the point in changing everything? Like, if anything, you would actually, even though I get what you're saying, that Tierney's probably having a better season than Robertson in the Premier League, and he probably is. But Robertson's your captain. He's the one of the first names in the team sheet for Scotland pretty much every time if he's fit. And Tierney's played at right back before, so if you're going to put any of them, it would be Tierney. Yeah. It goes over, and I mean, I've never actually seen Andy Robertson date anything with his right fit, so I would be a bit worried actually with him at right back than anything. Right. So
no, I agree.
I mean, sorry, Andy. I have seen him and Trent swap for Liverpool, but I think that's more like when they're defending after they've had a corner. I don't think he actually plays there.
Yeah.
I just basically echo what the rest of you guys have said. Like, if it ain't broke, we don't fix it. It's worked to get us to our first major tournament in,
since 98.
22 years?
23.
Is that right? Yeah. There's absolutely no reason to change the captain and no real reason to change the formation. I don't think we are blessed as some of the bigger nations are. That I suppose it's good to have a plan B, and that's fine. You can obviously try that against the Faroes. But I'd say as a rule of thumb, we have to stick with the formation we've been using.
Yeah. Do you think Kevin Nisbet will get a game?
I think it's more likely he'll get used in the Faroe Islands game. I think everybody else will be for the first two, and then that game is pretty much designed for him to go and see how he gets on. Mm-hmm. If he was to score like a couple of goals, he'll probably be in the squad for the Euros. I am surprised to not see Shankland's name on the list there, purely at the fact that Shankland actually since Christmas has started scoring goals in the SPL. So it was a bit of a surprise. I'm glad that Nisbet has been given his chance, but it's actually been almost backwards, I think. It should have been Nisbet that was there in November, and Shankland shouldn't. And it now actually should probably technically be Shankland that's in the squad now, and Nisbet shouldn't, because Nisbet he didn't throw the toys at the Pram in January, but he just clearly wanted that move that Birmingham came in with, and it never came to fruition. So we'll just wait and see how he plays for the rest of the season, but also Yeah, as I say, I think it will be the Faroe Islands game.
I think I think you make a good point in terms of it's almost like the call-ups have been flipped. I think Nisbet's the better long-term prospect for Scotland, so I'm not disappointed that Shanklin isn't in the squad at his expense. I think it's time to get Nisbet in and see if he can grab a few goals. I think he's the most Shanklin is a natural goal scorer, don't get me wrong, but I think that he has a ceiling, and I think Nisbet can play at that higher level, and I think it's more important to get Nisbet in and see if he can nab a goal or two against the Faroes and get him off and running. Shanklin, if he's scoring well domestically in the SPL, he'll always be a good option to bring into the squad, but I think long-term, Clarke has identified Nisbet as a better international caliber player.
I think Nisbet's a better technical player. I mean, I've heard that like Shanklin is a very technically gifted player, but I would say he's just slightly more of a goal scorer than Nisbet is, but Nisbet's not that far off him. But Nisbet makes up with his link-up play, and he likes to run he likes to run the channels and get in behind, whereas Shanklin's more a box striker or somebody that he very rarely will you see him holding the ball up. He will win the odd header and stuff, but anytime I've watched Shanklin, he's not there to be hit as a number 9 that's going to hold the ball up and wait for folk to come around him. So
the player I'd have Shanklin in ahead of is McBurney. I think Nisbet offers something different from the other strikers.
Yeah.
So I'd have him in, but I would actually have Shanklin ahead of McBurney, who must have some serious dirt of Steve Clarke in a strip club or something, because I don't know how he's still getting picked up.
Yeah, I think that was the straight away when you're looking at the squad on paper, you're just going, yep. Oh, good God. It's just like, how is he even? As you say, there is something. There is something that he's doing. And whether it keeps coming back to this 20 million tag of him, I don't know. But you can't pick somebody because somebody paid stupid money for him.
So on you, Andrew?
No, I was just going to spend a lot of nights crying myself to sleep thinking of why Bunny's been picked. And I keep coming back to that price tag thing. I think it's purely that. I think he's looked at that and decided, right, if he's been valued at 20 million once upon a time, I have to put him into a squad. But I did a comparison of him and Shanklin, and I put it into the chat for you gentlemen. But it's quite clear, if you're looking at that stats, why would you pick somebody that's not scoring goals over someone that is? The question I'll pose before Alistair jumps in there is last chance loan from Bonnie, do you think? If he doesn't do anything for these World Cup qualifiers?
That's what I was going to say.
Last chance in every squad.
Aye.
Exactly, Scott.
I might be wrong, but I fancy Steve Clarke to start him against the Faroes. And if you're a £20 million striker and you're not scoring against the Faroes, then there's no room.
The worst thing is, watch this, he'll go and bag a hat-trick against Faroe Islands, and that'll be him in squads for all his career, because he's got 3 Scotland goals now.
It's the Stephen Fletcher syndrome. He's got something like
Stephen Fletcher,
1 goal in every 3 games for Scotland, but 2 of them are like hat-tricks.
Mate, Stephen Fletcher must be like Robert Lewandowski compared to Ollie McBurney. It's ridiculous, the difference. And Stephen Fletcher, I think, got a little bit too much flack at Scotland level.
I agree. I like Stephen Fletcher. I think he's a great player. But like I just said, if you take away his 2 hat-tricks against Gibraltar, he has a terrible record for Scotland.
Yeah, but
although
I like
at Hampden line against Poland that we were at was one of the best goals I've seen for Scotland. First time left-footed finesse from outside the box in the far corner.
But I think he was there more than just to score. Obviously, a striker's there to score goals, but he was there for his link-up play because he was a very good player at chesting it down and then looking to at the time it would have been probably Snodgrass and Bannon that would have been in and around him. Yeah. And to be fair, Snodgrass was on a run of scoring goals one campaign as well, and that came from his link-up play with Stephen Fletcher. But
I'm not denying that. I was sure my dad's listening. I was the biggest advocate for Stephen Fletcher being in Scotland squads, especially when he was dropped by Craig Levein. But we as a country didn't get the best out of Stephen Fletcher, and
No.
I think we as a national team haven't got the best out of Ollie McBurney, and I think that's a large part of it is on him. He obviously hasn't turned up. The thing that I would say is that he has hit the woodwork twice. He did nearly score on his debut, and Steve Clarke obviously sees something in him, and I don't think it's just the £20 million price tag, because I don't think Steve Clarke is that kind of manager. I don't think he would put somebody in just because they were worth 20 million. I think he would drop them to prove a point.
I would like to think he doesn't, but it's got to the point now that when is he going to score? Because we've played San Marino and he never even scored. So
did he play against San Marino?
I think he came off he didn't start because it was McNulty and somebody else that started that game.
McNulty missed about 5 sitters in that game.
McNulty should have. He missed a few, and look, he's never been back in the squad. But back to the point. I really hope it's not this whole price tag thing. And I was speaking to somebody else about this. Ollie McBurney this season has been more focused on standing up in a huddle with Sheffield United because that's a Celtic thing than actually focusing on his football. Him and John Fleck standing in the huddle and just are more focused about that than their game, I think. Because they genuinely this season the two of them have not been in form at all.
Last question I'll ask, just looking at the group, how do we rate our chances of qualifying from that group? I believe two qualify, is that right? From a group of 6?
Is it not 1 and then the second place goes into a playoff?
I'm not sure. I'm asking you.
Scott, yeah.
I'm pretty sure World Cup, it's only a certain amount of spots for European teams, so I think it's group winners and then it's like 4 of the second places get to it or something. Okay,
so our chances are even more summer then. So do we see ourselves finishing top 2?
Well, I would say there is a chance, especially if Austria can't take 16 of the players that was announced last week, I think, was a rumour that Austria had 16 players from the Bundesliga in their last squad, and currently, with restrictions, they would not be allowed to play against us. Yeah. Now, if you got 16 of their 25-man squad last time, that's ridiculous. And think of the players that are playing in the Bundesliga for them. Like guys like David Alaba wouldn't be allowed to come. Straight away, you go, right, this is a must-win game for us.
Aye.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think that the problem, Scott, is that it's just like the Scotland thing that we would probably beat Austria 1-0 at home and draw 1-1 away, but then just lose to
We'll lose to is it Moldova we've got?
I think I was going to say Moldova. I wanted to say Moldova, wasn't sure yet. Moldova, Israel.
Moldova.
Yeah, exactly.
I think it's our best chance to qualify for a World Cup. I mean, you don't have any of the big guns in the group.
Yeah. I mean, you look at every other group, they've all got a Germany, an England, a France, whereas we've managed to we got pretty much the draw. It was like BBC, every time a draw comes around for the home nations, they go best and worst scenarios. Mm-hmm. And I think we were only one country off getting our best scenario. It is there for us to go, right, let's grab it and try and get this chance to go into a World Cup.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tight group. I can't make a call as to where we'll finish, because I think it's going to be that close. My gut says second, because if it's a group where teams are taking points off each other, history tells you that Scotland are going to we're going to lose to Israel like we just did. We lost them earlier this year. I think
it is Israel away the first time around against them, eh?
Yeah, that's
we don't do well. We've lost both the games out there, so
yeah, it's we have to win that game, because
it's a derby.
It's always the fourth place team or the pot below that kind of do us in.
Yeah. I don't think it comes into effect for the World Cup qualifying, but it does for the Euros, is that for like second or third spot, they always calculate how many points you get off of everybody and they don't count the bottom team because it's usually a Gibraltar or a San Marino. So they don't count your points against them. And that usually comes against Scotland because they'll get the 6 points against that team, but we're only sitting on 12 points. So we've only picked up like 3 draws and a win. So it's always hampered us usually.
I was looking at a thing. Our record against the team in the pot below us is terrible. It's something like 2 wins out of the last 15 or something stupid. The one thing I will say is the last game is Denmark at home with a potential for fans back in Hampden.
What's it? Do you know the date on that game?
I think it's in November, maybe.
Yeah.
So this is all getting done and dusted this year.
Well, the World Cup is next year, so yeah, I'm pretty sure it's in November. I'm sure it's in a calendar year.
24th of March to the 16th of November, they have to get them all done.
I don't know why I forgot it was 2021 there, just the fact that it's Euro 2020 we're talking about.
No.
Well, last year never happened, Scott, so it's fine.
If they get Denmark at home with fans back at Hampden, could be one hell of a moment. And I think that the Scotland team could be the Scotland team that finally delivers in front of a big crowd at Hampden. So
We have
there's my wild prediction. We're going to beat Denmark 1-0 at Hampden, and we're going to go to the World Cup. Okay, so cheers, lads. We've given our opinions on how we think Scotland are going to get on and what we think of the squad. Anyone listening, let us know what you think of the squad. Let us know which players you would like to have seen included that aren't there. Anybody that has been included, apart from Mike Barney, that you wouldn't like to be there, or you probably would have dropped. And how do you think Scotland are going to do in our World Cup qualifying group? You know, there's 9 points up for grabs. I think it's not out with the realms of possibility to say that we should be going for 9 out of 9 and getting ourselves off to a flyer. So yeah, like the video, drop a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. And otherwise, we'll see you next week.